Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and
Rashid.
Hey,
It's Rashid. What's up, buddy?
how y'all brothers doing, man?
Pretty good. You know, any day above ground is a good day.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. That is the truth.
That's the truth. But there's going to be a day that when we're way, way, way above ground, that's just going to be
Very
the
true.
best day.
Yes. Will there be different kind of ground then?
Possibly. I don't know. Are we floating? I mean, we're going to be beings of light, right?
I don't know. Beings of light? Where do you get that from?
Oh,
But that'll be a
shoot.
beautiful-
Is that
that'll
Kabbalah?
We're not too sure about what Dave believes now, but how's it going, Rashid? How you doing?
Yeah, that's good. It's going good, but that'll be a beautiful day to be closer to God, man. So that's
Absolutely.
really
That'd be a good day.
that's
to be
really
with
the
Jesus.
reward. That's really the reward that we waiting on.
That's right.
You got it
That's
right.
our reward.
That's
That's
the,
right.
Yeah,
the
that's our
great-
reward is to be with God. Yeah, so that's a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing.
Cool.
The
Well,
great getting up morning.
all five of you out there that are watching this, welcome back to the Nevcast. We're all laughing because we're laughing at
The chosen
the
few.
actual reality of this, and we have a guest
Yes.
today. Our first ever. No, it's not. It's not our first ever.
No.
It's like our no.
Alex was our first guest.
Alex was our first guest. Yes, we have our second ever guest, EJ Rathburn, who's a financial advisor here in Austin, and good friend of mine. EJ, welcome to the Nevcast.
Appreciate it. And Rashid, you probably don't know me, but I remember you when I lived with Peter briefly a long time ago. And I don't know if we ever met, but Peter talked about you all the time. So it's nice to at least finally hear your voice and talk to you.
Oh, nice to see you too, man. I remember your voice from somewhere. I don't know if we met either, but yeah, you sound like that English major who used to stay with us. I forgot his name.
What's that?
What?
Is that? You're talking about Brian. Is
The
that-
dude with the glasses
oh,
who
dude.
stayed in the room right next to mine.
And did he have red hair and he had the long ponytail? No.
No, he just had red. He drove a truck, I think.
Oh yeah. A truck. No, that wasn't EJ. That was John or something like that.
Or Dave?
Or
He was a young cat.
No.
Really.
I didn't ever live with him.
I
Except
don't
when we
know.
were
There were
kids.
so many people. I think there were like 20 or 25 different people that lived with me in that house at one point or another. I can't remember everybody. Sometimes I get messed up on everyone's name. Anyway, welcome, EJ.
Thank you.
And so most of the time, I think up to this point, we've probably talked a whole lot about really spiritual stuff and everything. And so, not that I think some people. Now, this is kind of interesting. Maybe it's a good place to start. But I heard somebody say that in the business world, the kingdom of God doesn't touch the business world at all, because the business world is completely secular. It's man-made.
Who said that?
Everything like some person I was talking to, they were like, they go to the same church, and I was like,
Why would they
really?
say that?
You believe that? I thought that was interesting. So, what are your thoughts, first of all, of obviously we all have jobs and stuff, but being a financial advisor, dealing with money, money. People in the Western church have a whole lot of hang-ups about money. So, tell us maybe some of your thoughts on that, EJ, if you can.
Well, I think faith is a personal experience for most people. And I think starting your own business, you have to have a level of faith and conviction in what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
And I remember when I started my career as a financial advisor, I went door to door to meet as many people as I could.
Wow.
That takes a level of faith.
Yeah.
And you face a rejection door after door after door after door for 8 hours a day.
Wow.
But I can also say in that time that I felt extremely close to God because I was basically on a prayer walk all day.
Yeah.
And getting to meet people and trying to introduce myself. And, when you face rejection face to face over and over again, it was so easy for me to get back on the sidewalk and just thank God for the opportunity, you know, and it really, when you face rejection at that level, it brings you to a place where you just appreciate all the smallest things you don't typically notice, like the birds chirping, or the warmth of the sun on your skin, or after a day of knocking on doors in 105-degree heat, just a cool breeze to cool you down.
Yeah. I thought you said you weren't going to talk about art. It's just like a poet.
Well, I you know, when you think of that, you know, it's like, does it touch the business world? Well, it has to, because there's thousands of Christians that are in the business world. And I feel like as Christians, we're always trying to improve our environments, improve our relationships, improve the places that we're at. And so, you know, I don't know if you could ever articulate necessarily how we're touching it. We're absolutely touching it.
Yeah. Whatever you do, do it with all your heart, you know, and then at the end, as unto the Lord, because it's the Lord that you're serving, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that gives a reward.
Colossians 3:23. We ought to put that on the side of like a trailer or something.
Yeah, or something. Go mow lawns.
Sorry. Yeah. Inside joke. Right. Inside joke.
Well, we started a business when we were kids, and we had the trailer with that on the side of it.
Dave got like revival fire in him one summer and decided we're going to change our name from DNP Lawn Care to Harvest Lawn Care. We're going to put the scripture on the side of a trailer.
That's pretty good.
And I was like, all right.
That's pretty good.
That's cool.
Well, it kept us motivated. I mean, it kept us
you
motivated to
motivated.
do a good job. It didn't keep you motivated?
Ah,
You hadn't met the Lord yet or something?
I was motivated whether I had Harvest or a scripture on the side or whether it was DNP Lawn Care. I was going to be the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, we infused spirituality into our business from the first thing we did.
Yeah.
Right.
And we needed to lead that.
Yeah. Okay. That was probably, Rashid, was that your experience growing up as far as when you started your first business as well?
You face a lot of rejections in business, like he was talking about. But in business, you got to keep God in the equation, and I done found out in life, in business, the person who makes it in business is the guy who never gives up. So you just got to keep knocking and knocking until some unfolds for you.
Yeah.
You know, so then you can actually, learn that through studies. The 33 years Jesus was here on earth, peace be upon him. You know, so you can actually take what he got out of life, and you can actually implement his rules that he followed. You know what I'm saying? Well, put down for us to follow. You can implement them same rules in business, because Jesus was actually a businessman. A lot of people didn't know that, but if you do research on him, he was a businessman. He had a banker and everything, man. So
that's true. Yeah, Matthew was one of his disciples. Yeah, the guy kept the
purse.
money.
Well, so did Judas too.
Judas kept the money. Yeah. Right. That's funny. That's pretty funny. Jesus had a thief in charge of the money box, is what John says. You know.
John would say.
Yeah. Yeah, so then you can look at like the stuff, like he made a lot of investments in the lives of people who were under him. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Yeah, you could say he gave everything. He invested everything, right? I mean, down to the last drop of blood. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that just a little bit, EJ, as far as, Rashid brought up a really great point, I thought, the person who never gives up. And we're talking about investing and growing wealth. Can you talk about some of the big things that you've seen, because you do this every day, right? Some of us, we only look at our own stuff. Like I only see basically my own investments. Dave, you probably only see your own investments. We don't talk about money with each other a whole lot. Like, what do you see on a day in, day out basis that are the keys to growing your wealth? And even what you use wealth for, does that influence how well you can grow it and how well you can sustain it?
Yeah, I think the first thing to be successful in investing is you have to have a plan for your investments. You have to have it attached to a goal. Some people may have multiple goals, but if your goal is to just make money, and if you go into investing with that mindset of you just want to make money, that's not a plan that's easy to execute, because the stock market goes down just as much as it goes up for the most part. And so if you don't have a plan as soon as you start seeing red for consecutive days, it's so easy to pull out because you don't have a plan attached to it. And so for a lot of people, retirement is the single most thing that we deal with most. They want to get to a point in their lives where they can retire comfortably and do all the things they weren't able to do when they were working, And that's a long ways off for a lot of people, whether it's even 10 years, but 20 and 30 years away for most people. And so what happens in the short term really doesn't impact what's going to happen in the long term. And so by being able to have a plan, understand what your time horizon is for that plan, it's a lot easier to digest what's happening daily in the market because ultimately it's not going to affect you today. You're investing for a larger purpose down the road.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really foundational to be successful is to know what you're trying to accomplish. And it's the same thing that you would be in business too, right? I mean, if you're investing in your business, you need to have a plan for that business, what your goal is for that business, because if things get hard, it's so easy to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, this isn't the right direction then. At some point you have to have a plan and stay committed to that plan. So I think that's foundational for most people, is to have a plan, understand what your time horizon is, and not get caught up with the emotions of ultimately, investing is emotional. It's your money, it's your wealth. And so a lot of the mistakes that you see investors make is they make decisions based off emotion, which I think we can all agree when we make decisions based off emotion, we typically make the wrong ones. And so, well, Peter's saying no, but
yes and no. I mean,
Well,
people
yes
say
and no.
follow
You're
your
right.
heart,
Right.
all this kind of stuff.
That's the funny thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to follow your heart. At the same time, you also need. I think it's when we make decisions that are
Impulsive.
contrary.
That's
No,
right.
I'll say this: when we make emotional decisions that are contrary to our commitment,
Yeah.
that's when they become the wrong decisions.
Yeah,
right?
because the impulsive decision at the right time, looking for ready for the opportunity, and then pouncing on the right opportunity can be impulsive, but it's related to your overall goal.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
not
that's
necessarily terrible.
That's emotional, right? So we need
That's
emotion for
emotional.
that. But sometimes our emotions say, get out, run quickly, absquatulate, to use a very highfalutin sounding vocabulary.
Absquatulate.
Yeah, flee quickly.
Wow. Okay.
Escape quickly.
I
from your
thought that was what
situation.
Bigfoot did or something.
Yeah, it's about right. That's about right. That's probably where the name Sasquatch came from. I have no idea. I'm just making stuff up now. But anyway,
Absquatulating.
I've derailed us with my vocabulary word. Anyway, but I mean, your emotions tell you get out quickly, but your commitment was, I'm going to put my money in this place because I've seen over historical periods it's grown for a long time, whether it's put it in this fund or whatever, and over long term, it's going to make money, even if in the short term I may have a pitfall. And so your commitment helps to override your emotion in that standpoint. But when your emotion matches your commitment, you say, I've made my commitment, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, I've been doing it wrong for this whole time, and I'm passionate about this. I remember my commitment. I'm all about it. I'm going to put more money into this, right? And I'm going to follow the plan that I made, right? Well, now your emotions lined up with your commitment.
Right.
And now that's the part that everybody likes. That's when everyone says, follow your heart, I think. Because sometimes your heart starts to lead you astray. You need to remember your commitment. You remember an outside voice who told you who you were.
Right.
Yeah. Do EJ, do people ever ask you, well, what should my goal be? Or do they not? Do those people not really get to you? Do you only get the people that already know what they want, and then boom?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say that the people that are seeking help know what they want, or they know what they need help with. And so either they're driven to work with somebody like me because they understand where they want to go, but they don't know how to make all of that happen and to do it well and responsibly. Or they've gotten to a point, they've accomplished enough where they don't feel comfortable managing it anymore. They feel like one, they don't have the time, and two, once you accumulate a certain level of wealth, it kind of transitions from being a hobby to this is a lot now, and how do I do this well? And there's a lot of other things that come with once you get to that level of tax strategy, saving, transitioning wealth to your family after you pass, and so things. I kind of call it the accumulation phase and the spending phase. So you're accumulating a lot, and that's kind of the easiest part for most people is they know they need to save, they know they need to invest. They may not know if they're saving enough, and that's where I can come in and help them. But once you get to that point where you've accumulated wealth, you're ready to retire, and now you've got to replace that income, that paycheck, because you're not getting one anymore, that's when it gets a lot more complicated, because now it's like we're not diversifying across necessarily asset classes to grow our wealth. We're diversifying across different forms of income so we can pay ourselves. And so it gets a lot more complicated at that point.
Interesting.
That I would say those are the two things that lead people to work with somebody like me, is they know they need help, but they don't know what to do. Or two, they've gotten to the point where they've accumulated enough wealth, they're not comfortable doing it for themselves anymore.
Interesting. Rashid, if you have if there were some questions that you could ask EJ, what would that be? What would those questions be, as far as even for your own, some of your personal stuff, like your goals? If you think about your goals and how EJ can help you.
I want to learn how to make an investment plan, like how to protect myself during that, how to avoid unsolicited investment, stuff like that. I want to learn the stock market, because I have a brother in the stock market right now, and he's making almost damn near like $10,000 to $20,000 a month. Like, he's been studying it, and he's making a lot of money. So I want to know how to get into stuff like that. Is it safe to play it? Do you have to have a bunch of money to play it? So. Mm-hmm. And when I get to an older age, I want to have residual income. Like, what I mean by that is with properties and stuff like that. So when I get up in age, and how do you get to that? If you just say if you're owning 10 properties by the time you're 70 years old, but I don't want to wait that long to get. I don't want to wait that long to be able to pay out 10 properties. I got a friend right now. He owns a liquor distributing business, right? So he was showing me some stuff with houses, right? And he was like, man, these houses are $10,000 to $12,000 a year for the houses. If you pay off a $250,000 or $300,000 house, he said, how can you live the American dream when you paying that much in taxes? So basically what he did about a couple weeks ago, he went and brought him some land. He brought him a half an acre of land for $34,000, and he's getting ready to buy a triple wide trailer. So he bought the triple wide trailer, and he did the taxes on it, and he's paying $12,000 a year. He's paying $1,000 a year on that, and plus the trailer home gonna cost him $100,000 versus now he's saving $150,000 from buying a home, and plus he's not paying $12,000 to $15,000 a year in taxes. He's paying $1,000 a year in taxes. So that's the type of stuff I want to be coached on and doing stuff like that, because we're gonna get up in age one day, and we're gonna have to plan for we're not gonna be able to work and work like that, like we at the age we are right now. So, yeah.
Someday you may not be as strong as you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Y'all haven't met Rashid, but he's got significant muscles. Just not like me, You look at me and you're like, I could take that guy. You look at Rashid and you're like, that guy can take me.
Yeah.
But you might not always look like that. You just never know,
Yeah.
There'll come a time where your muscles are droopy instead of swole.
Droopy.
So we're maybe an answer or some thoughts on that, EJ?
Right now, what we've seen in the headlines, if you follow the stock market or watch CNBC, there's companies that are headlined, like GameStop for one, that everybody was talking about, and super exciting. And I come back from things like that, and you kind of take a step back, and you realize you can't. The verse in the scripture that talks about don't despise the day of small beginnings, right? Things start small for most people,
right.
Unless you inherited wealth. But for the average person, things start small, and I'm still not aware of a way that you can just get rich really, really, really quick, And so everybody starts small, and then again, it's having that plan. And so, like Rashid talking about your friend who's making $20,000 to $30,000 a month in the stock market, I have no clue what he's doing. But for the most part, a lot of people can't do that, and a lot of people don't have the time to do that or to invest in that, and we would call those people day traders, and one of the best quotes I ever heard, and I don't want to degrade day traders, but what's the difference between a pizza and a day trader? A pizza can feed a family of 4.
Oh,
right?
nice.
Because it's just so difficult to do that, and it's a full-time job, and
It is a full-time job,
when you're trying to invest in a short-term time frame,
Right.
then it is more like gambling, right? I mean, you're betting on a stock going up or a stock going down, and how am I going to reap the benefit of that? And so that is gambling. But when you look at the stock market over the past 100 years, the stock market has done nothing but continue to exceed market high after market high after market high after market high. And so, Rashid, when I listen to you and kind of what your questions are, it sounds like to me, you're at a place of just wanting to know more, of wanting to understand what your options are, of wanting to understand how to be responsible in the stock market, how to minimize tax burdens. And that's where it's really helpful to have a team of professionals around you to give you the best counsel and the best advice, because you have a full-time job where you're trying to provide money for your family and to increase wealth in the future. And you don't have time to figure all of that stuff out. And the hardest part for most people is everybody has a friend that's saying, oh man, I just bought this stock and I crushed it, right? And then you're like, well, I'm missing out on that. Like, I need to buy some of that stock. And so again, that's why it's so helpful to have somebody that understands Rashid, that understands what's important to him, that understand ultimately what his goals are, to help keep you on track. Because Rashid, you could hear your buddy say the next, tomorrow say, buy this. And if you came and talked to me about that, I'd say stay away from that, right?
Right.
Because it's speculative. That's how people do. They do make money, but they also gloriously fail at times too. Yeah. And so,
Right.
So if I'm hearing the first thing that I'm hearing, number one, is have a goal of and some goals as far as what you want to accomplish with your money. What do you want? What are the things that you want to do with your money? Because I think, and that's very different, right? Especially. I'm sure there's probably some Christians that are going to listen to this, and the verse that's going to come up in their head is, for the love of money is a root of all evil, and we've heard that, and people will say, oh, money is the root of all evil. That's not what it says, or the love of money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. That's not what it says either. It says the love of money is a root of all. There's lots of different roots of all evil. That's one of them, and it's the love of money, not money itself. So, but if you're just loving money, and you just want to have tons of money, well, then you're probably going to get led into problems, right? But if you want money in order to be able to accomplish things that are important, right? It's a tool. Now it becomes a tool. Now it's not put up on a pedestal. We're not worshiping it or anything like that. So first of all, have a goal that things that you want to use the money for, and you plan for that. The next thing that I think I heard you say is begin to start small with what you have. What can you do right where you are? And let's say, what is it? Is that saving? Is that basically what that is? Deciding how much money you can start putting aside to accumulate. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, and there's foundational principles. I mean, for most people to really have to put themselves on a track to success long term, the most difficult place for most people to start is to build up an emergency fund. Whatever that is, if it's 3 to 6 months expenses, getting to that point where you can put $15,000, $30,000, $50,000 in the bank and just leave that alone in case of emergency, that is so hard for most people to do. And so, because the purpose of having that is in a worst case scenario, if something happens and an AC goes out and it's $12,000 or you have to get a roof replaced, that's not going to derail you from your ultimate goal, right? You can continue to save for your ultimate goal because you have this money set aside specifically for an emergency. So to me, that's one of the things I work with most families. They may already come to me and have that emergency fund, or they're coming to me and they don't have that set up. And so that's not the sexy part of investing, right? But that is a place where it gets you in the habit of saving, and money in the bank creates a lot of peace of mind for people, and so being able to cross that hurdle and that threshold of, hey, we have an emergency saving, and the peace of mind that you get from knowing, hey, if something happens, we're going to be okay. We're not going to run up a credit card to address this need. And so I would say that that's the first thing that we talk about with people, because if we don't have that, the next thing you know, something major does happen. You're either spending money on a credit card or you're paying penalties and taxes to pull money out of your 401k to pay for that.
Yeah.
And so we just don't want to ever put people in that type of a circumstance. We want them to feel empowered to save, because they're not looking down the barrel of something bad happening.
Right.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting, if you think about this, even from a spiritual standpoint, some uber spiritual people might say, "Oh, well, I just trust completely in the Lord." And that's like, well, you know what? The Lord wants you to be emotionally calm, able to be emotionally calm in the face of crisis. And when you have a reserve built up, I mean, that's just wise. That's just wisdom right there. It says in Proverbs, it says, by wisdom a house is built. With understanding many rooms are established, and with knowledge it's filled with all pleasant and precious treasures. Well, if you just have knowledge, it's kind of equivalent to if you just have wealth, or if you have material things and you never build a house over it or any rooms. It's just sitting out in a field where anybody can come, take it, whatever, right? And it's even emotionally. If you just have your emotions and you haven't built any kind of reserve or any place to put, things that make you emotionally volatile, right? Well, now you're subject to whatever comes along, circumstance, right? And even Jesus' parable about building your house on the rock, right? He says you got to establish your house on a rock, not on sand, so that because the winds and the flood are going to come, and they're going to cause you to be emotionally volatile. And if you're emotionally volatile in those times, you're going to fail. You're going to collapse. You're going to just be no more, right? But if we can establish like a reserve for ourselves, even with our physical things, and say, okay, now I have this in a place where if I need to access it, I can distribute it. Even if, let's say, and if you're uber spiritual, right, I'm talking to you, if the Lord tells you, you need to give away all his money. Well, if he tells you need to give away $30,000 and you don't have $30,000, how are you going to give it away? You kind of messed up in that point. So preparation, planning, and establishing a good plan, these are spiritual things.
It creates opportunity.
Creates opportunity. Yeah. That's really good. I like that. So let's say we get to this place. So you're saying the first thing is you want to create some sort of an emergency fund, or even a 3 to 6 month type of fund. What comes next after that? Now you're ready to begin to accumulate wealth. How do you start to do that? If you're, maybe you get a professional, but maybe also if some tips for doing it on yourself. How do you research the kinds of things that you want to start investing in, the places you want to put your money in so that it'll grow?
Right.
Take us through some of that.
I mean, it matters how old you are too, right? I don't know if that would be the first
that
thing.
That would, yeah. If we wanted to think about, since we're talking about starting out, if we want to think about a younger investor, there's a lot of places to start. And in general, one of the things that's become popular over the past 20 years are index funds, because they're a low cost option. You get broad diversification. Stock picking requires a lot of research, but stock picking is the sexiest things that you typically hear about that people want to engage in, and kind of hit that one stock that's going to make them rich. Well, it is so infrequent that actually happens.
And the timing that
right,
it takes.
and the timing that it takes to do that. So I'm not, an index is made up of stocks. So you are owning a broad index that you have broad exposure to. But I think that's the easiest place for most people to start, of just getting broad diversification. If you don't have a lot of money, being able to invest $100, $200 at a time into an index that has market exposure and that your money does grow over time. But you also want to look at your retirement account options. If you have a 401k at the company that you work for and they provide you a match, whatever that is, so let's call it a 3% match. If you put 3% into your 401k, the company is going to take 3% of your income and contribute that on your behalf to your account. So in my mind, that's free money.
Yeah. So
we would 100% want to take advantage of that in the 401k. And then you start looking at Roth IRAs. The benefit. A lot of people, and this is totally normal, don't know the difference of what a 401k is versus a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What are the differences?
So
we don't have a whole lot of time.
The main benefit for most people, especially if they're starting young, is contributing to a Roth IRA. And without getting into too many technicalities, there are income limitations that the IRS puts on whether or not you can contribute to a Roth IRA. But the benefit is all that money goes into a Roth IRA after tax. So think of it, you get your paycheck, you get $5,000 deposited into your account, and then you're going to deposit money into your Roth IRA. And there's limitations to it. If you're under the age of 50, you can contribute $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, you can contribute $7,000. But the main benefit is it grows tax-free for the rest of your life.
Nice.
For the rest of your life, you're never going to pay taxes on that money again.
And that's not now. Normally, if you invest in a stock, you pay money because you got the income that went into the stock purchase. You pay taxes on that, and then when the stock grows, all the interest that you accumulate in that stock or in that mutual fund or something like that, that also gets taxed. Right. So it gets like taxed twice.
Yeah.
At different rates depending on how long you hold the stock.
So to give you an example, if you would have bought Microsoft and you spent $10,000 on Microsoft and it grew to $50,000, that appreciation, the difference, you had $40,000 in gains that you're going to pay 20% taxes on, most likely when you go to sell it.
Probably long-term capital gains, right?
So the benefit of a Roth IRA is you can invest in that account and it can grow for the next 50, 60 years. You can do all kinds of trading within that Roth IRA that have no consequences. So that's a huge benefit. And then when you go to start pulling that money out in retirement, let's assume, Dave, you're in retirement and you and your spouse are getting $50,000 in Social Security. And let's assume then you need $100,000 to maintain your lifestyle. So we got to find $50,000 from somewhere else. Well, if we have that from a Roth IRA, you're going to be in the lowest tax bracket because of the income that you claim from your Social Security. And the Roth IRA that we're making up the difference of that $50,000 is not considered income from the IRS.
Wow, cool.
So there's a lot of, so those are places I would start. I would start with a Roth IRA, start with index funds or mutual funds, et cetera.
And the Roth IRA could also invest in that Microsoft in the same way that you could have just bought the stock, right? But it's better. But it's a better way to do it.
Well, and
as a basis,
right? And then I'll just throw out there. You might have heard this, and you heard EJ say $6,000 a year. That's the maximum you can contribute to a Roth IRA. And you think, $6,000. That's not a whole lot. Well, $6,000 times 20 is $120,000, and then at 10%, if that's growing 10%,
Let's pull up the amortization schedule.
Yeah, right. Well, but I mean, it's
not the amortization schedule.
I mean, at 10%, you're doubling it every 7 years. And so if you if you can take that, cut it in half, this is an easy math trick. If you take, $120,000 and say, well, if you cut it in half to $60,000, and you double $60,000 every 7 years, over 20 years, it's basically doubling 3 times. So it's grown 6 times. So 60,000 times 6, your money became somewhere around $360,000. That's kind of like, how'd that feel, Rushy? If you had, by the time that you get to 63, you got $360,000 in the bank.
That's good. That sounds real good. I was trying to think.
That you don't have to pay taxes on.
You don't have to pay taxes on it, and if you just put it under your mattress, it would only been $120,000 and really lumpy.
Real good.
It's my contribution today.
I don't know if you know this, but when Rashi, was in school, he was in theater and stuff, and he played the princess in The Princess and the Pea. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the Roth IRA, that's the first level. We got to.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Well, and then I think it's developing a habit of saving, taking advantage of what makes the most sense for you long term, and like going back to what Rashid was saying earlier, he's super interested in real estate. Right? He would love to own multiple homes and multiple properties. And that's absolutely a great vehicle for saving, because if you think about it, Rashid, if you get to the age of 65 and you're ready to retire and not work anymore, and those homes are paid for, well, that's income replacement. Every time you're getting rent and that comes to you, of course, taxes and property taxes and income taxes have to be paid on that. But that is now replacing the income that you've lost because you're no longer working. If I were working with somebody like you, it's kind of a dual approach and planning for retirement. Again, all of this takes time. We have to have enough time to make all this stuff happen, but we're creating a liquidity for you for the long term that we can have access to at any point. But then we're also, the beautiful thing about real estate is you can say, okay, I'm going to take $50,000, purchase this piece of property for however much it costs, and then somebody else is going to pay for that property for me as they rent it. And then once it's paid off, it's either going to create a paycheck for me, or I can sell it for a large chunk of money at that point. So all that to say, like Rashid, for somebody like you, I would be listening to what you're interested in, not telling you what I'm interested in. Because if you're interested in something and I'm hearing that from you, you're going to be much more willing to execute that plan than if I was saying, no, Rashid, let's not do that. Let's do something else. And so, so it's really important for me to hear from you and understand what you want to accomplish, what you're interested in doing, and then we create a plan for that. So I think the idea is you start saving and have a plan for what you're trying to do. And then once you get to that point where that's comfortable, then it's like, okay, well, what else do we want to do? What interests you?
You know what I heard?
Great. Oh, well, I was going to say, how do people need to contact him?
People do need to contact EJ. There's probably
we'll make sure that people know how to contact you.
An email or something like that, probably. What are you going to say, Rashid?
You know what, Peter, what's crazy is the same thing that he said about the Roth IRA. We moved Michael Dell into his house like way back in the 90s when I worked for this moving company, and he told us the same. He told us the same thing. He said, "Man, go get y'all a IRA." He said, "Go get that while you still young, man." He said, "But in 20 years from now, you'll be able to retire." That's what the dude who started Dell Computer told us that, like in the early, I think it was the early 90s, 97, 98.
Yeah, I remember
he
that.
Told us that. Yeah, he told us that a long time ago.
That's amazing.
It's ironic that he said that. It's like this dude was a millionaire told us the same thing years ago. So I know it.
And here's what I just
solidified.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what I just noticed? What EJ just said. He said something about I would listen to you more than I would listen to what I want to do for you. And I would say, just for everybody out there listening, if you want to be able to tell how you can know if you can trust a business, a financial advisor, any type of person, or even if your business is going to be a good business, it's, are you listening to the people that you're trying to serve more than you're listening to yourself? Mm-hmm. If you are listening to the people that you're trying to serve more than you're listening to yourself, now that is amazing, because in this world, we know that most of the people we run into are concerned more about themselves than about you. Mm-hmm. But if you find someone who's more concerned about your needs, that's called serving, right? And that's what ultimately is going to make a business attractive, trustworthy, successful, and established long term. And so, even we have to have that principle in our own lives as far as when you come to investing, establishing goals, listening to somebody outside yourself, is very, very good. And the other thing that I heard was, I noticed how calm you were, EJ, in giving Rashid advice about his life, whereas maybe for him, it feels emotionally volatile. And I was like, man, when you pair up with somebody who's outside of yourself, who can be that ace in the corner that gives you a little bit of emotional stability, man, that's a powerful thing. I mean, even me and you, EJ and I worked together, and like just yesterday we were talking, and I was like, I just put some money into my investment account, and we're talking about where to spend it. And I'm thinking like, oh, this one thing, it's down a whole bunch, we should buy that, right? And he's just like, actually, let's wait for that a little bit. And I may have been come out okay or whatever. He's like, I think there's this other place that we should do it, And I heard EJ sees this stuff every day. It's not his money. He's very calm. He's giving me advice. I like it when people listen to the advice I give them when I'm not in their situation. I should listen to him right now, and I will let this man who does this all the time do this for me. And I did, and I'm very happy. I mean, the load just gets taken off whenever we do that. Do you find that, Dave?
Yeah. Do we have EJ's contact information here right on the bottom of the screen?
Well, I don't even know where your finger's pointing. Let's pretend. It could be up here. It could be around here.
It's over here.
It's right there.
You point to the bottom below your face. It's right there.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Peter? That put me in the mind state of when he said that I listen to you, that put me in the mind state of, studying Jesus, man. When Jesus said, become a servant to others, that's how you get a person to follow you, is you become a servant to them.
That's real leadership. That's right.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, that's real leadership. So that's a beautiful thing. I definitely want to do business with that brother, man. He's articulate and well spoken, man. So
articulate. It's good. That's good. How do we get in? How does someone get in contact with you?
Well, I work locally here in Austin, and so I work for a local business here in Austin. So you can either reach me by my email, which is ej.rathburn@gmail.com, or my mobile is 512-923-5686. So
cool.
love to help in any way that I can, and I really appreciate the time to be here with y'all.
Absolutely. Hey, man, that's what the Nevcast is all about. I think one of the things that I'm always blown away is that everybody's got a story. No matter whether you're famous, you're infamous, nobody knows who you are, you think that you don't have anything valuable. I'm telling you, you got something valuable. And man, I'm always impressed by EJ ever since I met him. Such a great guy. But man, if you're out there and you got a story, we'd love to talk to you. If you got any questions, feel free to send them in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you next time on the Nevcast. You can find us at thenevcast.com. Hopefully, if we ever get that website up and going. I own the domain now, thenevcast.com. But anyway, there we go.
Spotify, YouTube, Apple, iTunes.
Just sign up, listen. We'll talk to you next time. That's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.